For many of us, the concept of health is defined as absence of disease. But do you really believe that to be true? As a specialist surgeon and teacher, I have come to the firm belief that true health is a balanced state between the mind, the body, and the soul. Under the Knife with Dr. Arun is an attempt to tap into the wisdom of world experts from various fields to learn practical tools that can allow us to change our own destiny. Not just in the field of health and wellness, rather in every facet of a fulfilled life. But it begins with health. Because as Emerson said, health is our first wealth, the value of which is only recognized when it is lost. Join me in welcoming another global expert in this episode as we explore some amazing self-empowering ideas today. Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Under the Knife with Dr. Arun. My guest today is a really special person who I've had the opportunity to meet in person and attend some of the really empowering practical experiences that he offers in his life workshops. It's none other than Dr. John Demartini, who's a global researcher and an author considered to be one of the world's leading authorities on human behavior and personal development. I can speak a lot about Dr. Demartini's accomplishments, but the one thing that I can say is that he's such an authentic human being, and I could only share that with you when I attended his breakthrough experience in person. He's also been featured in The Secret movie, and he was kind and gracious enough to endorse my most recent book, Your Mess Has a Message. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on to you Dr. John Demartini, who's coming in from the Netherlands. And thank you, Dr. Demartini, for taking out the time to speak with me and my audience.
Thank you. I'm the one that's blessed, so thank you.
Lovely. So I have been following your work for a few years now, and I think one of the things that I have been truly fascinated about is how you bring the science, which is the biology and the chemistry and all of that in your teachings, but you mix it with the spiritual aspect, which is so beautiful. I've not come across this sort of a blend in the understanding of concepts of not just healing, but also personal development, and even for somebody who may be interested in making money. So can I just ask you, Dr. Demartini, if you could just expand on the 7 areas of a fulfilled life that you talk about and how they are interconnected?
Okay, great. Well, different thought leaders and different philosophers have differentiated the different aspects of life. Our spiritual quest, our desire to have some sort of inspired mission that we want to live our life by, our mind development quest, which is our desire to create original ideas that serve people and to actually develop our mind and become wise and learn. Our business quest, which is to try to create a sustainable, fair exchange with other people and be remunerated as a service to the world. Our financial quest, to be able to have financial independence. So we're working not because we have to, because what we love to, and have more money at the end of the month than month at the end of the money. Our love and intimacy quest, which is our contribution to having a family and to raise a beautiful family and have somebody that can share your life with. Our social quest, which is our desire to make a difference and influence and be a leader in some area. Our physical well-being quest, where we are maximizing our physical potential and our attractiveness, our vitality, and our energy levels and our health and well-being is at a peak. So we all have those 7 areas, and any of those areas we don't empower, we tend to be overpowered by the people. So if we don't empower ourselves intellectually, we'd be told what to think. If we don't empower ourselves in our business, we'll be told what to do. If we don't empower ourselves in our wealth, we'll be told what we're worth. If we don't empower ourselves in our family, we'll probably do honeydew things around the house we're not inspired by. If we don't empower ourselves in our social life, we'll probably be told propaganda and misinformation, be vulnerable. If we don't empower ourselves physically, we might have, unnecessary drugs taking or whatever because we have illnesses. And if we don't empower ourselves spiritually, we may be subordinating to something that may be irrational, that's not really as meaningful as what it could be today. And so every one of those areas affect all the other areas. You know, if you're not having a relationship, or if it's under chaos in there, it's affecting your health, it's affecting your business, you're not inspired. If you're not taking care of your health, this can affect your business, can affect your relationship. So there's really an inseparability, even though there's a differentiation of these 7 areas, there's really an inseparability in all of them. But I've been on a mission since I was 18, and I'm 68 almost, just a few months. So for 50 years, I've been involved in teaching, and anything to help maximize the potential in those areas of life is what I love working on, researching, and sharing.
I love it how you describe that, you know, there is this ripple effect. I know you've used this term ripple effect in terms of, you know, disturbance in one area can lead to disturbance in another area. I guess my point is sometimes when I talk to my own patients who come to me, there is so much noise, there is so much chaos out there that that causes them to actually not empower themselves, but they feel disempowered to the opinions of others. And I still remember your quote from the movie Secret, when you said, then when your inner voice or your internal voice becomes louder than the opinions of people on the outside, you have mastered your life. And I've still kept that quote close to my heart because I felt it was so powerful, so empowering. But how can somebody start to empower themselves in any of these areas?
Well, everybody has a set of priorities, a set of values that they live their life by that may or may not be conscious. And we call it a hierarchy of values, or a set of priorities that we live. And anytime we live by the very highest priorities, the things that are most important, most meaningful, most inspiring to us, the blood glucose and oxygen goes into the forebrain, and we have more objectivity, more balanced view, more self-governance, and more empowerment. But anytime we are subordinating to people on the outside and fitting in instead of standing out, and being part of the herd instead of getting out and getting heard, we automatically go into lower values, trying to be pleasing everybody else. And when we're in lower values, the blood glucose and oxygen doesn't go into the forebrain, it goes into the amygdala, the subcortical area, and we go into kind of an animal response of avoid predator, seek prey, a stress response, and we end up disempowering our life. We're not here to put people on pedestals or pits. We're not here to judge people. We're not here to compare ourselves to them. We're here to compare our own daily life to our own highest values and what's most important to us. And in the process of doing that, we're not here to live in the shadows of people. We're here to stand on the shoulders of giants. And when we do, we empower our areas of life. If we don't do that, we end up subordinating, living somebody else's values, and then robbing ourselves of our power in life.
So, Dr. Demartini, how is somebody who hasn't done your breakthrough experience, how can they start to find out what their values are? Because this word value may be alien to so many people. And it's really about understanding, where do they start? Well,
I've been asking since I was 23 and studying values. I've been fascinated by values all these years. I picked out and identified 13 value determinants that give an indication of what's really important to you. Because many times if you ask somebody what's their values, they'll tell you social idealisms, honesty, integrity, truth, and this, and it's just social, you know, it's to fit in.
Yes.
But I look at how people fill their space, because when something's really, really valuable to them, they keep it close to them. And when things are not, they push them away. So I look at what you keep in your most intimate and personal space. I look at what you spend your time on, because you always make time, find time, and spend time on things that are valuable to you. I look at what energizes you, because when you're doing something with time, your value, your energy levels go up. And whenever you're not, your energies go down. I look at what you spend your money on, because you find money, make money, spend money on things that are valuable to you. Yes. And you don't want to spend money on things that aren't. So I call it the STEM, the space, time, energy, and money is the first indicators. Then I look at what it is that you're most organized and ordered in. Then I look at what you're most disciplined and reliable to do. I research and teach every single day of my life. So you can rely on me to do that, but you can't rely on me to be cooking.
No.
I have cooks to do that, and I can't rely on me to drive. I haven't driven a car in 32 years. So I've learned to delegate all lower priority things and stick to the highest priority things and give people opportunities through delegation to do what they love to do so I can do what I love to do. You're not going to live a fulfilled and healthy life if you're doing things that are uninspiring all day long. You're living a quiet life of desperation, and that creates symptoms in the body to let you know you're not being authentic. Then I look at what you think about, what you visualize, and what you internally dialogue with yourself about how you would love your life to be that is showing evidence of coming true. In other words, what are you thinking about that's actually coming into reality? What are you talking about to yourself about what's coming into reality? Then I look at what you converse with other people about most. What do you keep wanting to bring the conversations to? That tells you what you value. And if you talk about it, you'll talk all night about it. Then I look at what inspires you and brings tears of inspiration to you that is so meaningful that you just feel inspired to do it. Yeah. And what's common to the people who inspire you. Then I look at what is the goals that you've had that have been most consistent, persistent, that you haven't stopped on and you've made achievements in, that's just intrinsic to you. And the last one is, what do you spontaneously want to learn, study, read about, and watch on YouTube? Because whatever is most important to you, you keep wanting to absorb information. When somebody's important, you want to know about it. And when something's important, you want to know about it. So I look at the answers. I ask for 3 answers in each of those questions. I look for what the common answers are, the ones that show up most frequently. And it gives you a great idea what your life is demonstrating it's valuable, not what you fantasize. Because if I ask people, I was in Johannesburg, and I was speaking to about 5,000 people, and it was a wealth building program. And they asked me to speak on the human, psychology of wealth. And I asked, how many of you want to be financially independent? And all the hands went up, and even legs went up in the air. And I said, how many are financially independent, where your passive income's exceeding your active income? All the hands went down except 7. 7 out of 5,000 people. I said, isn't it interesting? You say you want to be financially independent, but your life is demonstrating that the second you get money, you're buying consumables that depreciate in value, and you're not really caring about building assets. You're interested in lifestyles of the rich and famous. Yeah. So people don't know what their values are until they're really looking objectively at what they're actually doing with their life. And sometimes people have idealisms, and there's a conflict between them, and that creates illness. That stress of that conflict is part of our illness process.
And absolutely, you're spot on. Like, in fact, if one thing that COVID has shown to us, it is the stress-induced response of the body itself, which leads to this thing called the cytokine storm, which is body's own inflammatory chemicals, which are stress hormones and related chemicals, which are creating damage to the lungs and other organs, which causes them to go into respiratory failure. So talking about stress, and disease, Dr. Demartini, we see that COVID was one blip in the whole history of health and wellness and disease in the human history. But conditions like cancers, obesity, and you talk about so many cardiovascular problems. Do you think they all have an emotional basis? Do you actually believe so? And if so, why?
I don't want to make it a causal. I want to make it a correlative.
Yes.
Because I can't guarantee that it's purely causal. I think we have false attribution biases when we do that. But there's no doubt there's correlations and compounding due to distress. I'd like to say that there's only 2 sources of distress in the world. Only 2 I've narrowed down to. The perception of loss of something you're seeking, or the perception of gain of something you're trying to avoid.
That's true.
The perception of that which you're seeking, this loss of that which you're seeking. So let's say you're seeking wealth, and then all of a sudden you have a loss of money. That's distressful. Or you're trying to avoid bills, and you get a bunch of bills. That's stressful.
Yeah.
Or you're infatuated with somebody, and you fear their loss. Or you have somebody you resent, you fear their gain. Every distress boils down to, in the brain, in the amygdala, the seeking of prey, which is looking for food, and the fear of starvation, and the avoidance of predator and the fear of being eaten. To the brain, that's the amygdala's response. Seek prey, avoid predator.
Yeah.
And so all distresses boil down to that. So anything that supports your values, you're going to fear the loss of it. And anything that challenges your values, you're going to fear the gain of it. So all distresses boil down to the ratios of perceptions on the things you seek and avoid.
Yeah.
And
Seek
what that
pleasure,
does
avoid
is it
pain.
causes, exactly. And
Yeah.
so one is the parasympathetic nervous system for rest and digest, anabolic, and the other is the sympathetic system for fight or flight, catabolic.
Yeah.
And so when those are not balanced,
Hmm.
where you have heart rate variability that's balanced and cardiovascular flexibility, you have illness. You have no resilience, no adaptability. Stress is the inability to adapt to a changing environment. And so a balanced ratio of perceptions and a balance of the autonomics change physiological quotient. Absolutely. The health and wellness quotient go up if it's balanced. But if you have any perception where there's a fear of loss or the fear of gain and you're highly distressed, that's when the pro-inflammatory or the anti-inflammatory cytokines get imbalanced, and we have these responses. And our body, throughout the body, our epigenetic effects from these autonomics are affecting cells, production of protein, the transmitters, and it's causing these symptoms in our body. And I really believe that some of those symptoms are feedback mechanisms to guide us back to authenticity, where we see things in balance. Because if we are infatuated with something, we minimize ourselves. That's not authentic. If we resent something, we exaggerate ourselves. That's not authentic. When we love something, that's authentic. We balance the equation. That's why love and grace is two of the greatest healers on the planet, because it's back into authenticity, where we have the wellness quotient and the autonomics are brought into balance, and our physiology normalizes again.
Yeah, and we'll come to that in a moment. But Dr. Demartini, while I was researching for one of my other presentations, I came across this fascinating study that actually looked at stage-matched ladies who had breast cancer. One group had breast cancer alone, and the other group had breast cancer and depression. And the group that had breast cancer and depression had 33% increased risk of recurrence over the course of 5 years, because in cancers, we always talk about 5-year prognosis. So they had 33% worse prognosis just by having depression. So to me, and depression is not just deficiency of Prozac in the brain. It is actually a chemical and a hormonal imbalance. So while you're saying, I totally get it, that, if your depression is basically when you don't see hope, and that is where I believe that emotions have got a tangible effect on the disease outcomes.
Absolutely. I always define depression as a comparison of your current reality to a fantasy that you're addicted to. Because I've worked with thousands of people that are clinically depressed, that have biochemical imbalances. Yeah. And I've probably solved 90% of them really quick. It's not that hard. We make it a big deal out of it. But what people have is an unrealistic expectation on other people to be one-sided, an unrealistic expectation that other people are supposed to live in your values, not their own. An unrealistic expectation on you to be one-sided, always nice, never mean, always positive, never negative, always one-sided, or an unrealistic expectation for you to live outside what you value. And there's a lot of delusions and unrealistic expectations that underlie these people that have these stress responses and these depressions. And I love finding out what the fantasies are that they're trying to hold on to, and then dissolving those with a series of questions. If all of a sudden you got what you fantasize about the way you want, what would be the drawback? Oh, there wouldn't be any drawbacks. Well, that's a fantasy. What would be the drawbacks? Because everything in life has two sides. What would be the drawback? I can't see any. And I show them the drawbacks, and they pop the fantasy, and then all of a sudden their biochemistry changes. If a tiger runs into a room, and the door opens and a tiger comes towards you, and it's leaping in the air, and it's got fangs and salivation, it's about to eat you. If I go and do a blood test on your neurochemistry, I guarantee it would be imbalanced.
Absolutely.
So your perception is affecting that chemistry in 2/100ths of a millisecond. It just changes the chemistry like that. So if you have stored in your subconscious mind a frustration because you're not getting the fantasies that you're addicted to, your chemistries are going to be imbalanced. And that's why if we go study the chemistries, those are correlated, but that's not the cause. They're correlations from some of the imbalanced perceptions that are affecting those chemistries, because every one of the transmitters are being run by ratios of perceptions in our life. And if we have imbalanced perceptions in life, we have imbalanced chemistry in life.
And that's where I think, Dr. Demartini, that there is a pathology of disease, but then there is also a psychology of disease. As we spoke
Yes.
last time, there is that you can't ignore the psychology of disease and just treat everything with pills and procedures. Even though I'm a medical doctor, I'm a
Yes.
surgeon and I operate on patients, but I truly believe that that's just the physical aspect. You have to address the psychology of disease.
You know, I really saw this. I used to work at St. Luke's and Texas Heart Institute in Houston, Texas, many years ago, back in the 1970s. And I got to work with Dr. 𝗵𝗵𝗂𝗧 and Dr. 𝗵𝗏𝗂𝗧, and they were heart specialists.
Heart surgeons, yes.
They're world renowned. And I delivered their surgery schedule. So that was one of my jobs, to hand them their daily surgery schedule. So I got to know these guys really well. And they let me come in and watch in the domes and watch them do surgery and do bedside rounds with them and things. And Dr. 𝗵𝗵𝗂𝗧 said something really amazing. He said, there are two facets of our healing. And by the way, he had 12 disciples with him, and they did most of the surgeries. He just watched over them and made sure they did the procedure. But everybody thought he was doing all the surgery. It's quite interesting. But what's interesting is he said there's two aspects of the illness. One is the physical, one's the psychological. Wow. So he said, we're going to go in there and do the procedures on the heart that need to be done. But that's not where the healing occurs. He said that. He said, it's when I go into the bed next to their bed and I have my bedside manner and I talk to them, that's where the healing occurs. So I watched him go in with 12 of his buddies, right, his disciples, and they're with notepads. And it looks like they're doing things. They're actually sharing jokes sometimes, but they look important, right? He says, we walk in and when our whole team comes in and he grabs their hand and he looks them in the eye and he says, Mary, your surgery was an absolute success. Wow. Soon you're going to be able to play with your granddaughter. Soon you're going to be able to hold her in your arms again. You're going to be able to work in the garden again. And he would recite and get, when they came in, all the things that they're not able to do that they want to do. And he would recite them again and let them know that everything is going to be fine now and that you're going to be able to love again and be with your children again. And I watched him heal those people psychologically as much as in that room, the surgical room. Yeah. He did both.
It's like
that's why he was world renowned. Yes. And I watched that and I said, I want to master that. Yeah. Because that's half the equation right there. Half the equation.
Yeah, yeah. You didn't think of becoming a cardiothoracic surgeon and do the full job?
No, I didn't want to be a cardiovascular surgeon.
Heart.
Yeah, I love healing broken hearts, but my surgical procedure is my own speech.
I know.
I like helping that way.
Yeah. Well, talking about speech, Dr. Demartini, I've been very fascinated by your book, Love, and it's the healing power of gratitude and love. A book that you truly wrote from, you write from your heart. I know that, but I think that was one book that truly resonated with me, being a medical practitioner myself. So can you share with us a little bit about what is this power that is there in love to heal you? And by healing, we know it's not like treatment, it's actually healing from the root cause.
Well, I'm a firm believer that our autonomic nervous system has a lot to do with illness because every cell is influenced by it. Every cell is influenced by it. And anytime we have a perception that is imbalanced and we are perceiving more support than challenge and activate the parasympathetic makes certain symptoms in the body if it's excessive, just like the sympathetic does, right? The sympathetic nervous system, when you have a fight or flight response, it shuts down the blood supply in the digestive system, changes the microbiome, constricts the arteries there, stops the digestive movements, and all the blood goes out into the periphery for defense. So your muscles in your body are tense and your skin and everything else that gets all the blood and shuts down the digestive tract. So chronic perceptions of challenge without support can cause the sympathetic nervous system to create certain symptoms. And the parasympathetic goes the other way. It goes into the digestive system, speeds up the bowels, makes peristaltic action, gets secretion, mucus is secreted. And in any one of those to extreme, the anti or pro-inflammatory responses occur, and we create symptomatology based on our perceptions. So anytime we can bring our perceptions back into balance, we're going to heal. And love is a perfectly balanced perception. That's the definition. Many people think that love is infatuation.
Yes.
When you're infatuated and Google eyes, that's not love. That's infatuation. And that's actually imbalanced chemistry. And it creates symptoms because now you have a subjective bias where you're seeing the upsides of somebody, but you're blind to the downsides. And then you feel a broken heart when they turn out not to who you thought. And that creates symptoms. But when you have love, it means you have a real balanced perspective and you love people for both sides. People want to be loved for both sides of their life, their authentic self.
Yeah.
And when you love your life, love your objectives in life, love your goals in life, your career in life, the people around you in life, you bring balance to the autonomics and stop the symptoms. I believe the symptoms are feedback mechanisms to try to return you to love. And when you love, they don't have to be there. That's why love is still the greatest healer on the planet. And I really believe that that's what some of the greatest specialists in the health field, the reason what makes them stand out is their love for what they do, their love of their patients. I learned that there were 6 things that were common to the great healers. They loved what they were doing. They were inspired by the vision of serving. They were grateful for the opportunity to do it. They were enthusiastic while they did it. They were energized by it. They were certain about their procedures and they were present with their patient. Those were the keys of mastery of the healing arts, regardless of any of the healing arts that I saw. And I saw lots of different healing arts from rheumatoid to cardiovascular, every specialty I got to see and watch those people that were exceptional. That was the common denominator to me.
That's beautiful. I love how you said that, love is the most balanced emotion, because true love, and I know what you're talking about, infatuation or, romance, I should say, but love is when you see the person for who they are and you see the goods and the bads, but you still love them. And
you embrace them.
You embrace
it's like a baby. It's like a baby. The first year a baby's born.
Yeah.
It can poo, it can pee, it can scratch, it can bite, it can do anything, and you just love it.
Yeah.
The second that baby stands up and starts becoming independent, and now you say no, yes, no, you start putting all the judgments on it. But the first year, it's kind of like unconditional love.
Yeah.
Imagine if you had that type of love for the people you care about in your life.
Yeah.
When you did, you're less likely to be distressed because a balanced mind is resilient. If you're fearing the loss of that which you seek, that's because you're infatuated with it. If you're fearing the gain of that which you're trying to avoid, that's because you're resenting it. But if you love it, you're neutral and you don't have the fear of loss or gain. And that's why you have resilience and adaptability and your heart is more flexible. The heart rate variability, if it's very black and white and it's very rigid, you have an inability to adapt to changing environments. And that's distressful.
Yeah. Dr. Demartini, just tell me, if somebody's listening to this message or this conversation in this podcast interview, and if they are going through a unique challenge in their own life, say for example a relationship challenge, they've gone through a breakup and all of that, and it's been very heartbreaking, how can they start to create love? Because it's the person who they most loved and they've had to go through a breakup. How can they start to develop a love for that person? It's so hard. It might not even make sense to them.
Well, this is going to shock some people, but if you're having a grief over the loss of somebody, it's not because you loved them, because when you love somebody, you feel their presence. When you infatuate with them, you grieve the loss of that which you infatuate with. Grief is the perception of loss of that which you seek, just like distress is. So that means, and I've worked with about 4,000 cases of death grief. And I found out that when they write down what are they missing from this individual, they never write down the things they disliked about the person. It's only the things that they liked about the person that they're missing. So that means that they have both sides. They have things they dislike, but that part they dislike, they have a relief that they're gone. But the parts that they are infatuated with, they have grief over what they're gone. So if you're grieving the loss to somebody that's left you in a relationship, it's because you had a fantasy and an infatuation with parts of them, and you were the underdog in that situation, and they were looking for an option because they wanted to find a match in a relationship. Wisest thing to do is to find out, make a list of everything that you're missing in them, find out who now is in your life to provide it, find out if they were there and stayed there, what are the drawbacks of that to break the infatuation, and what are the benefits of the freedom, because somehow if they're left you, they're obviously not wanting to be with you. Why would you want to be with somebody that doesn't want to be with you? Get on with your life and just say, hey, I deserve being with somebody that wants to be with me as a whole, and allow that. And then you want to maybe look at your own self as, what am I doing to make sure they left? Because sometimes I have unconscious motives to push people out of my life. You need to find that out. I worked with a lady just yesterday in the breakthrough experience that her husband left, and she was all bitter and upset and this and that. I said, what did you do to push him away? And she just froze.
That's a very hard question
I
for
said,
many
answer
people to
that.
answer.
What did you do? What did you do to push him away? And she goes, And she finally got honest with herself. She says, I stopped giving the attention he was seeking.
That's
I got
very
focused
powerful.
on the kids and forgot my husband. I said, you had an affair with your kids. He had an affair with another woman.
Yeah.
And I said, can you see there's a part of you that was unfulfilled in that relationship? And she said, yes, it was. And I was trying to fix him into the fantasy that I had. I had an ideal search image about how I was going to make him. And I was trying to get him to be somebody that I fantasized about. And as a result of that, he wanted to be loved for who he was, not who I was trying to make him. So she was having an affair with a fantasy person, having an affair with her kids, and was not actually being present with her husband. And so people go where they're appreciated most. And if they don't get appreciated home, they go somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so you want to ask that question. And so she got it. She started to cry. She goes, now I've gotten to the truth. That way I know what I can do next time so I can be more balanced. I neglected my husband for the sake of my kids, and I wasn't giving him the attention that he was needing, and somebody else was. And anything you're not willing to do for your mate, you got to be willing to delegate. Somebody else is going to come in there and do that.
And do that, exactly.
And so she woke up, and then her anger to him changed. Epictetus, the great philosopher, said, you start out being angry at other people and blame other people. Then you blame yourself, and then you realize there's nothing to blame. Then she realized that there was a part of her that wasn't fulfilled in a relationship, and she did want to have children, and she was using him to get the children because he had security. And so she really got truthful to herself. And then she realized, I got the children that I wanted. I got the security that I wanted. Now that he's left, I've still got the financial security. I'm now in touch with my inner motive. She wasn't willing to face her inner motive because she didn't think that was socially acceptable. But she finally discovered what her real reason for being with that man was. And then you realize that I'm now really wanting to be with my kids. So she had to face the truth of herself. And when we do, we heal. As long as we repress what's real and we are inauthentic in our expression and have fantasies that are unrealistic and get angry and nightmares and then be blaming and depressed, our physiology is going to create illness to try to get us back to the truth of who we are.
Yeah, and I think, as has been very famously said, whatever you try and repress is going to express in very uglier forms. And that is where disease comes in, mental health issues come in.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I truly believe, Dr. Demartini, that everything, the mantra or the affirmation that I tell myself is, everything is working out perfectly, just the way it is meant to be. Now, it may not be the best thing that is happening to me at that time, but, I just say, you know what, this is perfect just for the moment. It's hard to swallow. So I don't know whether you would want to shed some light on that.
Yes. It was Aristotle who talked about the golden mean between the two vices of life. Whenever you have an excess of perception or a deficiency perception, those are the vices. And when you have a balanced perception, the golden mean, you have virtue. So in order to extract meaning out of our existence, everything that we're infatuated with, that we put on a pedestal, that we minimize ourselves to, that we're conscious of the upsides and unconscious of the downsides, if you find out what are the downsides and balance it out and bring it back into the mean, you've extracted meaning out of that thing that you're infatuated with. And if you're resentful to something and you're conscious of the downsides and unconscious of the upsides, and you find the upsides of the thing you think is terrible, you find meaning in it. To extract meaning out of your existence, as Viktor Frankl says, is the difference between animals and humans. We have the capacity to extract meaning and pursue meaning in life instead of just avoid pain and seek pleasure. So when we do that and we bring our mind and body back into the mean, back into homeostasis, as Walter Cannon says, and 𝗗𝗿 Bernard says, we bring wellness. Wellness is wholeness, and it is also the ability to see the whole and not be subjectively biased and only seeing part of our perceptions. When we're infatuated, we're not seeing the whole person. We're only seeing half of them. We're blind to the downsides, like Fatal Attraction, with Michael Douglas and Glenn Close years ago. And if we're resentful to somebody, we're blind to the upsides. And the thing we think is terrible, a day, a week, or a year, 5 months or 6 months or a year or 10 years later, you go, thank you for that. So why have the wisdom of the ages with the aging process when you can have the wisdom of the ages without it by asking, how is whatever's happening, how is it being brought back to the center? How do I extract meaning out of it? Everything is ultimately on the way. And if we don't see it that way, it's not because it's not that way. It's because we're subjectively biasing our interpretation, creating symptoms to try to get us back to see the balance and go back to be authentic in life. We can't be authentic as long as we're judging and putting people on pedestals or pits. If we put them on a pedestal, we'll minimize ourselves. We put them in a pit, we'll exaggerate ourselves. And as long as we're exaggerating and minimizing ourselves, we're not ourselves.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the thing that I took when I attended the breakthrough experience was that, you know, the quality of your life is dependent on the quality of questions you're asking. And I think ever since then, I've just been asking questions of myself, even of the universe. You know, I just say, please guide me. Please show me. But one of the things that I want to ask you is, you know, you talk about the emotion of love and then gratitude. So can you elaborate a little bit why gratitude is so important in the healing process specifically? And when I say healing, it's not just the health of the individual, healing our emotional wounds of the past, which hold us and they anchor us back to our past.
Well, there are two types of gratitude. A superficial gratitude, where somebody does something that supports your value and you go, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And a deep grace. A deep grace is finding the hidden order in the things that you think are chaotic, finding the hidden blessings in the thing you think are challenging. When you go through and take something you think is terrible and you go find out how it serves you and ask, how is it helping me fulfill what's important to me? How is it helping me learn to love? How is it helping become authentic? And ask those questions. The quality of your life is based on the quality of the questions. And answer that. And you get a tear in your eye when you finally realize that that thing you think is a challenge is actually on the way, not in the way. You have a deep grace. That grace, that gratitude is the key that opens up the gateway of the heart. And inside the heart, out comes love, because it's a balanced state. And when it does, it window washes the mind and brings inspiration to the mind and enthusiasm to the body. And it brings certainty because it's not an emotion of polarity, it's an emotion of synthesis. And it automatically gives you now a direction and a confidence and a presence. You're not living in the emotional vicissitudes of the past or future, which is entropy in the arrow of time. You're now present. Presence is where healing occurs. You know, people say, well, how long is it going to take to heal? How present will you be?
Yes.
Because the more present you are, the more you extract out space and time from the mind. I always say the state of unconditional love, the soul extracts out space and time in the mind and allows you to be present. And that's where healing occurs. That's where gratitude and love is. But the second you add space and time to the mind, you create entropy, and entropy is disorder, and entropy means missing information. Yeah. That means you're subconsciously storing missing information. You're unconscious of the upsides or the downsides, and you're creating an autonomic imbalance and creating symptoms. So if we balance our perceptions and balance our mind, we open our heart and we heal.
Yeah. And is there a role for forgiveness, or do gratitude and forgiveness go hand in hand? Because that, I feel, carrying the resentment is a really big issue for so many people, especially with
the only reason people forgive is to assume that there was something to forgive in the first place. As long as you still think there's something to forgive, you haven't gotten to the real essence and the real meaning behind it. So I'm not a promoter of forgiveness or promoter of apologies. I'm a promoter of seeing the hidden order, so there's something to say thank you for. No healing is complete with forgiveness or apologies. The healing is complete when you truly say thank you for this experience. Thankfulness, to forgive means thank you for giving me this experience. Thank you for giving me this experience. Yeah. Not you messed up. I'm going to now be self-righteously assuming that what you did, I haven't done, and I'm going to forgive you. To me, that's still looking down on somebody. It's not opening your heart to somebody.
Actually, that's so true. When you forgive someone, you think that you are on a higher pedestal and you're forgiving someone who's on a...
No, that doesn't work. That doesn't bring healing.
Correct.
Listen, I learned a long time ago in my Demartini method that I use. When I ask somebody, what specific trait, action or inaction do you perceive this individual displaying or demonstrating that you despise most? And they write down, well, they criticized me in front of my friends, or they rejected me, or they're not being affectionate, or whatever they say. And I said, great. Now that we know what you're judging, now go to a moment where and when you perceive yourself displaying or demonstrating that same specific trait.
Wow.
And I said, where was it? When was it? Who was it to? And who sees you doing that? Because whatever you're pointing your finger out is three back at yourself. Yes. In Romans, in the New Testament, it said that, whatever you see in others, you have inside yourself. And whatever you're judging in them, it's a reflection of you. And I'm certain about that. I've been doing this a long time. 50 years, you will not judge somebody on the outside unless you're judging yourself on the inside for the same behavior. And you feel ashamed of it. And that's why you're resenting them, because they're reminding you of what you feel ashamed about. You don't like that feeling. So you're resenting them. So I go in there and find out where I do that until I do it to the same degree as I see in them. And that calms down the righteousness. And then I go to a moment where and when I perceive them doing that. And in that moment till now, how is it serving me? How is that benefiting me?
Yeah.
If they criticize me, is that because I'm cocky and I need to be humbled? Is that because I'm challenging their values disrespectfully and I need to be humbled and broadened and learn how to communicate more effectively? Do I need to be more respectful in my communication? What's the benefit to me of that? And when I can see the benefits equaling the drawbacks, there's nothing to forgive. There's nothing to look down on. There's something to be thankful for. And now you heal again.
That is so powerful. That is so powerful, because I think it's really about the story that we create in our heads around a situation, and we blow it up, we magnify it, and we create this whole situation around it.
Our amygdala is a subconsciously storing, subjectively biasing, in-group, out-group, false attribution bias system that's basically exaggerating and minimizing because of the prey-predator perceptions. And that's where our illnesses are. That's where they start. The inability to bring your body into homeostasis and your perceptions into homeostasis. Your brain is doing everything it can to try to bring you back into homeostasis. That's it. The Wisdom of the Body by Walter Cannon is a fantastic book that everybody could benefit by reading. It's a simple book. There's a Harvard professor that talked about how no matter what goes on in the external world, your body and mind have the capacity with its intuition and homeostasis to bring things back and to maintain homeostasis. If you maintain homeostasis in your psychology, you maintain homeostasis in your physiology. And homeostasis physiology is called wellness. And perturbing is what illness is about. So anytime we can balance our mind, we're going to balance our physiology. That's why in the breakthrough experience, thousands of people over the years have gone through and said, my illness stopped after the breakthrough. When I loved my dad for the first time in 25 years, all of a sudden my irritable bowel syndrome is gone. Or all of a sudden the headaches I've had are gone. Or all of a sudden the shoulder pain is gone. Or all of a sudden my breasts that were swollen and causing problems are now the cysts are gone. Or I mean, I got story after story of people that have physiological wellness come about when they basically bring back their mind back into balance and love again.
Absolutely. Dr. Demartini, I have a question for you with regards to your personal routine. I know you live on a ship, you travel all over the world, and you're in different time zones at different times of the year. Like, I personally love to have my routine, and I love my waking up in the same bed and going to sleep in the same bed in the same geographical location as well. So what practices do you have, or what does your routine look like, especially when you are living from one time zone to the other, to actually incorporate these practices of gratitude, forgiveness, or not so much forgiveness, but gratitude and love for whoever is serving you? How do you do that?
Well, since I was 18 years old, and I read a book on Albert Einstein, and he said, I'm not a citizen of my family. I'm not a citizen of my little city or my state or my nation. I'm a citizen of the world. Yeah. I thought, oh, I love that. And then I read Epictetus talking about Socrates, and he said, I'm a citizen of the world. I started at age 18 wanting to be a citizen of the world. My ship is called the world, and I'm a citizen of the world. And I go to every country around the world. I've spoken in 170 countries now. And so I basically have the universe is my playground, the world is my home, every country is a room in the house, every city is a platform to share my heart and soul. So I have a global idea. Instead of living in a house, I live in a world. And instead of walking to room, I sail or fly to room. And instead of talking to people in person, sometimes I may do it on Skype or Zoom or WhatsApp or something or Instagram. And so I just have a new frame of reference that I'm never away from anybody. I live in a big friggin' house and they're all inside my house. It's all a frame of reference. That's one. So it doesn't matter where I am or what time zone, because I realize that if I'm present, there's no time. As long as I'm present. I just finished my seminar at 4:30 this morning out of the States. And I was back up again at 8:30. And I'm doing this. And I've got podcasts throughout the day. So if you're present, you don't have the normal vicissitudes that most people have. Your circadian rhythms are normally on day and night cycles. But if you're really present, your autonomic system. Your parasympathetic is for night, your sympathetic is for day. They come into balance. But what they're really saying is it's the perception, because during the day you tackle the challenge and at night you're dealing with support. If you balance those in your mind, your autonomic stabilize. So it's about being present. Whatever you're doing, be present with it. Now, my daily routine is no matter what I do, before I get out of bed, I've got a series of internal dialogues that I say to myself, right? I do what I love what I do. I'm a master of persistence. I do what it takes. And I'm always at the right place at the right time to meet the right people. I'm a genius and I apply my wisdom and I love learning, and I have a photographic and autographic mind. I have thousands of statements that run through my head, and I don't get out of bed until I'm in a state of gratitude. I start with a tear of gratitude daily. Then I get up and shower and clean up, and then I have and I eat very well. I have yogurt and blueberries and multigrain or granola or whatever, and I eat fish and vegetables. And I don't live to eat. I eat to live. I eat to perform. Yes. I drink a lot of water. I don't drink anything else but water and vegetable juice. I don't drink coffee and tea and alcohol or anything like that. And I'm doing what I can. And I think that has a lot to do with it for being 68 and having more energy than most people 38 now.
Totally.
So it has a lot to do with how you respect your life and respect your body. But my routine is very simple, and there's a routine no matter what time of day it is to me. That doesn't mean anything. So I'm working in different time zones around the world, and it's all different times.
Oh, that's awesome. I can feel your energy, even though I'm sitting miles away from you, but I can feel your energy, and that's awesome. Dr. Demartini, I've got 3 final questions that I ask all my guests. It's been such a delight speaking to you. These 3 questions are I'm sure you have thought over these. I'm sure you've been asked these in the past. And I'll begin with the first one. What is the most successful habit that has brought you to where you are today?
Well, the number one thing that I do on a daily basis is I log what I've been grateful for and what I have the opportunity to do every day. I have 33 volumes of 1-inch margin, 10-point print volumes. That's thousands of pages of gratitudes. That's there every single day. That's a pattern that I deal with. So
do you write the whole page?
No, I don't do. I do whatever it's in my mind at that moment.
At that moment.
So it may be 15 minutes worth. It may be 10 things, 5 things, 20 things. It varies every day. It could be gratitudes from people that have sent me letters, but like I've already got yours typed in there, right? Had the opportunity to be, interviewed by Arun or whatever in Melbourne, Australia, write it in there. I document. And I keep metrics of everything that I'm setting my mind to that is inspiring to me, that I want. I document that every day. That's one. And I also have a master plan, because I realize if you're not living by design, you're living by duty. If you don't fill your day with high priority actions, it's going to fill up with low priority distractions. And if you don't decide how you want your life, other people are going to decide. And they're not dedicated to your fulfillment. It's up to you. You have to be master of your fate, and captain of your ship instead of, victim of your history. So I prioritize my daily actions and I make sure I do my gratitudes. That's a daily ritual. And if I showed you them, you'd see there's thousands and thousands of pages of working on that. So that's a daily routine.
And that's like a physical paper copy that you keep. So the journals are there, and that's how you write it every day.
It's on a computer.
Oh, okay.
I can show you real quick if you want. Just take a second here.
Would love to see that. That's awesome. That's the power of gratitude.
You have to open me up to be able to share, because it says disabled.
Absolutely. I will just and while we are on that, I'll just make you a co-host, and yep, you should be good now, Dr. Demartini.
It says host disabled screen sharing. You still disabled it.
I think it is definitely you are. You're definitely the host.
Okay, let me see if I can do it now. Yep, now it works. Okay, now. Okay, so what I do is I keep a list every single day of everything I get to do. I document it.
Right.
It says, has had the opportunity to do this, had the opportunity to concern the internet on the world, had the opportunity to do this interview, had the opportunity to write this book, had the opportunity to do these interviews, travel these places, go through the Panama Canal in that case. So I
Wow.
keep a record every single day of what I had the opportunity to do. What book endorsement, interview, thanks. I do a lot of interviews. I've done about 300 podcasts so far this year, and I've done
Wow.
352 seminars this year already. So I keep records of everything, where I go, where I travel, who I meet, all the Nobel Prize winners I get to work with, those celebrities I get to work with, everything. I keep everything documented.
Yeah.
And this, by the way, this is just one of 33 volumes. Let me show you that real quick.
Wow.
Because I'm a firm believer. Let me bring up the, and how we do that again. So here is volume 1. Can you see those?
Yes.
All the way to volume
Oh my
33.
God. So
these are all gratitudes.
These are weekly journals, or these are daily journals?
Daily journals.
Wow.
Every single day of my life.
Wow.
Every single day.
Oh my God, that's
every day.
That is awesome.
And
and
can
I ask you about your plan? You were talking about a plan, a life plan. Do you think we could?
Yes, I have a master plan. Let me see if I can find that. You probably can't see that. Hold on. So here's my purpose statement and life master plan. It's got everything that I've worked on and planned out. It's got all the objectives.
Right. And is this something that you refine every day?
What I do is I start over from the beginning and I read through it again, and any edits and everything else I need to do, just keep refining it, keep refining it, keep editing it.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing document and journal. It's the most significant journal I have in my life.
Yeah, it's your life plan.
It's I call it the state of my mission, my master plan.
Beautiful, beautiful. Dr. Demartini, the second question I have for you is, what are your 3 truths of wisdom, your personal 3 truths that you think are the basis of what defines you, or your values, or, that's probably the best way how I could ask you this question.
My highest value is teaching. My second highest value is researching and writing. And my third is traveling. So I teach every day, 7 days a week. I research and write every day. And I travel almost every day because I'm in different ports every day, traveling on the ship, or I'm flying somewhere. And so those are the absolute top things that you can rely on. I'm doing that. And I've been doing that 50 years. So 50 years I've been working on that.
And the rest you're delegating.
So I delegate everything else away. I learned a long time ago, stick to only what inspires you if you want an inspired life, and delegate the rest away. So I haven't cooked since I was 24. I haven't driven a car in 32 years. Anything other than what inspires me, I hire people to take care of. And people say, well, that's great because you can afford it. No, I can afford it because I did that. Yeah. Because I did that, I became fortunate. Not afterwards, because I did that. Because when you can't wait to get up in the morning and be of service to people, people can't wait to get the service, and your business flourishes. And then you end up with more money than you need in order to take care of all the people that you want to do all the other things. So I have my own cooks, I have my own captain, I got people that clean, I got everything, all those things I have to do. So all I do is research, write, and teach as I travel the world. Yeah. And I learned a long time ago, if you're not doing high priority things and raising your self-worth and being inspired spontaneously, you're going to do low priority things and need external motivation, and you're going to drain your energy because you got friction on, you don't have the fuel on. And so I'm not interested in doing that. I'm interested in teaching people how to live that way so they can inspire their life. There's no matter what you've been through or going through, what you've experienced, there's nothing stopping you from doing something extraordinary with your life. Everything is ultimately on the way. It's knowing how to ask the question to see it. And that's what I'm great at, is asking questions to help people see that no matter what happens, it's on the way, not in the way. You're not a victim of history. You're a master of destiny here. Yeah. So I do that. So I get my gratitudes. I get clear about it. I prioritize what I'm doing. I let go of anything else. I say no to anything other than what inspires me. And I say thank you, but no thank you to the opportunists that come and try to take up that time. And I get on with doing what I'm doing, what I serve people that way. And I reach billions of people doing that. And I love that. And I'm a firm believer that, and I used to live on the streets, as you know. I was a street kid as a teenager. Yeah. I was illiterate till I was 18. I didn't know how to read till I was 18. So it doesn't matter where you start. if you apply the principles that stand the test of time, you stand the test of time.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's been beautifully said in whichever way you said it. And the last question I have for you, Dr. Demartini, is what do you see as your legacy that you want to leave behind? What do you want to see accomplished? You've written several books, you've touched so many lives, and I forever would be indebted to you for the beautiful work that you're doing. What do you think is your legacy, your ultimate legacy that you're working towards?
Well, I have a list of thousands of things that I'm working on. You know, I wanted I've reached now 1,530 magazines and newspapers I've written for around the world. My goal is 2,000 magazines around the world. My goal is to have 1,000 books reference my work around the world. I want to go to every country on the face of the earth and speak. I still got 50 to go. Wow. I have a series of the things that I intend to accomplish. I wrote a book called The Secrets of Immortality and How to Leave an Immortal Legacy in the World. And I believe that we're here to leave a legacy with your ideas. So I'm going to make sure I leave every possible way of living ideas out there in the world that'll go on beyond my life. I want to make sure that my business lives beyond my life, and my daughter's taking that on, and I've got people helping that legacy to go on. And to have a foundation and a prize that'll go on beyond my life. I also want to be able to have my wealth go beyond my life, so I've got more money than I'm going to be spending in my life. I want to make sure my family went on and carried on in generations to come. I want to have a social influence and impact to people that impact people that impact people. I want to have physical vitality and energy that people go, I can feel his energy and still feel that energy through as a catalyst, and leave a physical presence in the world vitality-wise, and do something that's an inspiring movement for people. Not a religion, there's plenty of those, but an inspiring movement on how to live an inspired life. I want to leave that on the planet. So all of those I intend to leave on the planet. It's already in motion. So if I die today, I already know those are in motion. So it's about holding a vision. If you don't have a vision bigger than yourself, you won't get beyond yourself. And we go around and say we're immortal souls, but where's our immortal goals? Yeah, that's where you want to ask yourself, where's your immortal goals? It's easy to say you're a soul, but if you're a soul, that's eternity. Where's your goals that last for eternity? That's what you want to ask.
Yeah, and your legacy encapsulates all 7 areas of the fulfilled life that you're talking about.
When I was 18, I made a commitment to master all 7 areas. That was 18, I set that goal. I want to be able to create original ideas that serve human beings. I want to create a global business. I want to have financial independence. I want to have a global family. I want to have social influence of movers and shakers around the world. I want to have a vital body that was energized. And I want to do something that inspires a movement of inspiration across the planet. That's something I've worked on for 50 years, and I'll probably work on that till the day I die.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Any final message that you want to say? Most of my audience are people who are, keen to lead their lives in peak health and vitality. That's what they are seeking. They are seeking true answers, not just quick fixes and band-aids. Do you have any message that you would want to give to them? Of course, your interview has been powerful and really heartwarming and touching, I should say.
Well, the magnificence of who you are is far greater than any fantasies you'll ever impose on yourself. So don't try to compare yourself to somebody else and live in somebody's shadow. Don't try to put people on pedestals or pits, put them in your heart. And give yourself permission to shine, not shrink. Because the real you is extraordinary, not ordinary. Don't sit there and try to be somebody you're not. Why be second at somebody else? Be first at being who you are. And allow yourself to love yourself, because the moment you love yourself for who you are, so can other people. But as long as you're exaggerating or minimizing who you are, they can't even get in to love you who you are, because you're not demonstrating it. Give yourself permission to be authentic. Allow yourself, you don't need to get rid of half of yourself. You don't need to get rid of and edit you and say, oh, I need to get rid of that part of me. Oh, I need to have improvement on me. The magnificence of who you are in totality is what matters. A lot of times we have this fantasy, we need to get rid of one side and be only this one person over here. And we're not perfect unless we do. The perfection is your whole, not.
Absolutely. And I think that's where it all starts with self-love, isn't it?
Self-love, exactly. And when you love yourself, so can other people. Give yourself permission to love you. No matter what you've done or not done, you're worthy of love. That's what counts.
That is so powerfully said, really beautifully said, Dr. Demartini. Can I say thank you to you from the bottom of my heart, with a deep sense of gratitude for all the work that you are doing, touching lives, going wherever you are going on your travels, and showing, and not just showing, but living the life so that you are actually walking the walk and talking the talk. I'm truly grateful to you, Dr. Demartini, for the work. And I certainly look forward to seeing you and meeting you in person at some stage. I hope you come to Australia someday, or I might see you somewhere
Yes.
else.
Yeah, we'll either be sailing there or flying there, but we'll be there. So thank you. And I look forward to that. And thank you for the interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you again, Dr. Demartini. Have a good rest of your day.